What is up, guys? It is the Football Fanatic here. I hope you had a great Christmas. Today is the 26th, so whatever day you want to call this, Christmas Day observed, or whatever. Yeah, Merry Christmas, late Christmas. Have a Happy New Year this upcoming week. We're going to go over the Week 17 picks. I know these are kind of irrelevant in the season. A lot of teams will sit certain starting quarterbacks or starting running backs or other starters because they really don't need to gain anything out of the game. So they'll take a loss. That's fine. First, let me recap last week's picks, which was a complete disaster. There were a lot of weird games, such as the Jaguars knocking the Titans out of the playoffs completely and just destroying them in that game. The Browns winning versus the Chargers, getting their first win. And the 49ers grabbing their win over the Rams on, I think it was a 2-point conversion that they did to grab the lead. The Cardinals beating the Seahawks at home at the Seahawks bird's nest, whatever you want to call it, 12th man. That's crazy. That's hard to do. And then we had another upset, which was a little bit more fitting, which that was the Saints versus the Buccaneers. Texans won. That was a big upset that everyone was picking, but they ended up winning. The Giants losing to the Eagles. What are these matchups? It's so weird. And then to finish off the day, we had Denver and Baltimore losing, which that was pretty fitting in my opinion. And yeah, so after this week, the AFC is all clinched up with playoff spots. So you have the Patriots, the Raiders, the Steelers, Texans, Chiefs, and then Dolphins. The Dolphins squeaked in because of the Denver loss last night and the Baltimore loss. So yeah, let's just get right into these Week 17 picks. First things first, they're all on Sunday. There's no Thursday night, Saturday night, or Monday night game. They're all on Sunday. So first game is the Browns versus the Steelers. I have the Steelers in that one. I know the Browns came off of a win, but they're not that good. San Diego they play to the level of the opposing team. So if they're playing Oakland with Carr, they're gonna play pretty well. But if they play a bad team, they'll probably play down to their level. So Steelers in that one. Saints versus Falcons. This is a one that could be upset, just like the Buccaneers game with the Saints. But I have the Falcons because their offense is very powerful, and the Saints defense really isn't that good. Falcons defense isn't good either, so it's going to be more of a shootout game. But since Julio Jones is back and all the threats on the Falcons offense, I think they'll be able to pull that one out. The Panthers versus the Buccaneers. This is another game that you might see the Panthers come back and win. But I'm going to take the Bucs due to the fact that the... what team was it? Due to the fact that... Let me look here. The Falcons put up 33 points. So the Bucs have a pretty good offense as well, in my opinion. I think they can move the ball. They have a much better defense than the Falcons. So I think the Bucs will be able to move the ball and win that one at their house. Texans versus Titans. Now the Titans, Mariota, their quarterback, broke his fibula, I believe it was. Same with Derek Carr of Oakland. So they have Matt Castle in as backup, and that's okay. They have a really good run game. That's the big thing. And Castle has played quite a bit in the NFL. He's been a backup, but He's got the starting position every once in a while because of the poor skills of quarterbacks he's been behind. So they are at home. The Texans are not great outside the division, but this game is inside the division, and that's where they're winning. So I'm going to take the Texans full and healthy for the most part over the Titans. They'll somehow manage to win, just like they did with the Bengals. The Giants versus the Redskins. I like the Giants in this one. This is one game that could be considered the game of the week for me, but there's another game, the Packers and Lions, that I really like, and I think that's going to be the game of the week. But when talking about the Giants and Redskins, that's like the Josh Norman and Odell Beckham matchup. So it's going to be an interesting game. I believe that the Giants won the first matchup between these two teams. So I'm going to pick up the Giants again. I think they'll be able to pull it out. But it will be a shootout, and there can be an upset with the Redskins, especially since the Giants just lost to the Eagles. The Bills versus the Jets. The Jets, in my opinion, are almost the worst team in the NFL. They have 4 wins, yes, but the way they are playing is so bad. They lost 3-41 to the Patriots. They only got those 3 points at the very end of the game. They just don't have any attack with their stars like Brandon Marshall and Matt Forte. Matt Forte's old, but they have Powell too, who's a good ball mover. Their defense has a bunch of stars. They just can't do anything with them. It's kind of sad. So I like the Bills a lot in this one. The Bills have a great team, in my opinion. They have a couple really good cornerbacks. They've got a pretty good pass rush and a couple good linebackers on the defensive side. On the offensive side, Tyrod Taylor, in my opinion, is like the best rushing quarterback in the NFL. He runs a lot and he's fast, but he can also sling that thing. I was watching the game versus Miami, and he can really put that thing right where it needs to be if he needs to. And then the rushing game just for them with Tyrod Taylor and his rushing skills, but LaShawn McCoy and Mike Gillislee, those two, mainly McCoy, he's absolutely crazy. He's great. Gillislee's great too. He can pound out some big yards. He's just behind one of the better running backs in the game, so you don't see him as much. So I've got the Bills for sure in that one. Cowboys versus Eagles. I'll take the Cowboys. The Eagles showed that they were somewhat good versus the Giants, but I don't like their chances versus the Cowboys. The Bears versus the Vikings. I like a Bears upset. I like the Bears offense. I don't like their defense. Vikings, I just feel like they're struggling a lot. They just can't win games. They get started too late. So if the Bears can move the ball past the Vikings' pretty good defense, then they can definitely have a chance at winning this game. And that's exactly what I think they're going to do. So I have the Bears. The Packers versus the Lions. And that is the game of the week for me. I like the Packers in this one. They're figuring out how to win games left and right. They're on a tear. They have not stopped in the past couple weeks, just winning last week versus the Bears. Or maybe it was 2 weeks ago versus the Bears. Let me check. The Jordy Nelson bomb, if you know what I'm talking about. No, they beat the Vikings this last week. Yeah, so week 15 versus the Bears. Aaron Rodgers slings that thing to Jordan Nelson, and he manages to catch it and win the game, basically, with a field goal. So, yeah, Lions are a great team, too. Don't get me wrong there, but I think the Packers have what it takes to win this. The Lions, they're a comeback team, so you might see a Packers lead with a comeback from Matthew Stafford at the end, and he could win the game, or the Packers could maybe step up and stop him. The Ravens versus the Bengals. I like the Ravens in this one. They're kind of a hot and cold team. So they went hot versus Miami, and they went hot versus the Steelers, but they lost to the Steelers. Um, but they played a good game. They did play a good game. I don't like the Bengals very much. They just can't win. They had a chance to win versus Houston with a 43-yard field goal, and the dude missed. He had another field goal, I think, that was blocked. It was just not good. I think the Ravens are going to win this one. They're a much better team on both sides of the ball. The Jaguars versus the Colts. I like the Colts, even though the Jaguars came off of a huge win. The Colts are a better team than the Titans, honestly. They have a more structured offense, it seems. Although their defense is crappy. But yeah, I think the Colts will win that. Patriots versus Dolphins. Now, this one literally depends on which quarterback the Patriots put in. And from what I've heard and what I see, I think Brady's going to be in because they're still like playing for the first round bye over Oakland. And so Tom Brady will most likely be in, so I'm taking the Patriots in this one. The Dolphins are home, and they are playing very well at home. And if you look at the stats, the Patriots have lost the majority of the last decade worth of games, or maybe that's too far, but the last 5 years, most of the games they lose versus Miami are in Miami. So you could see an upset. I just don't like the Dolphins' chances. They're Matt Moore's the quarterback. I mean, he's good, but I watched that game versus the Bills, and he just wasn't putting it where it needed to be, and it almost cost the Dolphins the game. So I like the Patriots in that one. Okay, Seahawks 49ers. I'll take the Seahawks in that one. No explanation needed, I think. Chiefs versus Chargers. Chiefs in that one, they're a good team. They'll be playing all their starters too. Raiders versus Broncos. I like the Broncos in this one. Only because there's no Derek Carr. Derek Carr completes the Raiders, and without him, the Raiders are going to struggle a little bit more. So their backup quarterback's going to have to step up. But I like the Broncos versus Raiders backup because Broncos defense is quite good. So that's going to be quite a challenge for the Raiders. Cardinals versus Rams for the last game of the day. I have the Cardinals in this one over the Rams. The Rams aren't very good, and they fired Jeff Fisher a couple weeks ago, who may be able to beat the Cardinals, but I'm